Money Sense, bringing an informed financial perspective to the Cayman community.
Good morning and welcome to Money Sense, your home for informed financial information impacting the Cayman community. I'm your host, Neville Hicks, alongside co-host Christophe Barnett.
Good morning.
We've got a great show lined up for our audience today, and following from our industry speaker series, we have with us in studio Jude Scott. Welcome, Jude.
Thanks, morning.
Who I should almost call a co-host. It's been that regular, but always a pleasure having you on. With us today, or also joining us today, are CISPA representatives here representing the accounting community. We've got Sherry Ebanks, CEO of CISPA, and Serge Berube, President of CISPA. Welcome.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having us.
So I guess kicking this off, coming back to you, Jude, there's certainly, this is part of your past in a way. So maybe just kind of walk us through your history with CISPA and particularly the accounting community here in Cayman.
Absolutely delighted to, and again, delighted to be here today. It's the accounting profession is obviously very near and dear to my heart. It was my pathway into the financial services industry. When I graduated from high school, I actually then interviewed with local public accounting firms and the predecessors to Ernst & Young. And they actually provided a program from back then, and it had been in place probably about 10 years prior to that.
Okay, wow.
They had a program where they actually recruited young talent straight out of high school. You worked for a couple of years. It also gave them the opportunity to expose you to the workplace, as well as look to see whether you had a propensity to go on to university. I had a scholarship from the accounting firm, went off, attended Baylor University. I then interned every summer and Christmas with the accounting firm as well. So when I graduated from university, I'd really had a long track record in the industry and felt very, very prepared for the workforce. And then I spent probably 23 years in public accounting. And certainly from my perspective, I think it's just, for me, it was a great pathway. It allowed me to really interact with. We provided audit services for a variety of different clients, hedge funds, banks, insurance companies, private entities. So it gave a lot of exposure to senior people leading organizations, as well as the inner workings of successful businesses, and really understanding things like managing risk and driving profits in it. So it's I've really enjoyed having that as a cornerstone, and then been able to build on that. And I've done other things in my life as well, but that's been very fundamental.
Certainly, and there's I think, from a financial services perspective, the accountancy industry as a whole here in Cayman is one of the largest ones, certainly from a service provider standpoint. So, Sherry, maybe give the audience a little bit of background as to what CISPA stands for, what it's about, kind of its mission would be certainly helpful.
Sure. So Jude just used a word, and I really enjoyed it and really loved that he actually said that word, because from an individual basis, Jude brought in that he felt that accountancy was a cornerstone. Well, in terms of CISPA and in terms of the audit and accountancy profession in the Cayman Islands, it is the cornerstone of financial services. It is the foundation from which financial services, came from. So it is, accountancy really, it's having a strong and real vibrant accountancy profession is important and integral to advancing economic growth and sustainability, and to make strong financial systems. So it is key. So, the majority of the success of financial services in the Cayman Islands is because the firms came in early and we had a strong and vibrant accountancy profession and audit. So CISPA's goals really in going forward is to ensure that happens, ensures the sustainability and the growth of the economic development generally of the Cayman Islands. Obviously, with the audit profession itself, it brings with it integrity, it brings with it governance, and CISPA over the years, CISPA was formed back in 1970.
Okay, wow.
And they actually did talk about becoming a self-regulatory body at that time, and and all of you know Mike Austin. He was the first. They were key. It was Mike Austin, Chris Johnson, and actually Paul Sleep, which a lot of people. Paul Sleep is the CFO, I believe, of the Foster Group. They actually were the original signers of the memorandum and articles of CISPA, and of course now today Mike is the chairman of the board of the Auditors Oversight Authority. And they had these guys had vision, like many of the people that were here in the 70s setting up, and they were visionaries, and they did want to bring the quality in everything that the audit profession brought. It was actually really interesting because Chris Johnson actually resigned from CISPA. He quit CISPA because he was the only one that was advocating really for the law and for quality. But not only that, they wanted to do that part, but not to have the disciplinary side.
Certainly.
And he said, well, if you're not going to discipline the people, why are we here? Why are we doing it? And he actually quit CISPA. He actually did come back, and he was chairman after that. But I think, it is telling on the development of the accountancy profession in Cayman. And we're still sitting here to this day that as you mentioned before, the law came out in 2000. Well, the actual first accountants law was in 2009, was the second revision. We're now waiting. Actually, it's been for 3 years. It's been a long time in coming. But the new accountants law now will bring in our quality review system and beef up, because we didn't have, and we still do not today have, the teeth in the law to actually fulfill Chris Johnson's original dream of having the disciplinary, the investigation and disciplinary system that we need to have in place. So, which is extremely important. It's important for us, especially because we are a member of IFAC, which was a huge jewel in our crown. Back in 2013. We had applied back in 2007. We were an associate member, and we finally made the grade, as it were, to become a full IFAC member. Now, IFAC is the International Federation of Accountants. They are the global body that advocate for international standards globally. And so we're all their foot soldiers and coming out to ensure that the profession remains sustainable. And
so that's a fairly big milestone for Cayman.
Absolutely. It's for Cayman and for the audit profession. It's huge. And, we do have, and one of our obligations are the 7 membership obligations of IFAC, and we have to make sure that we adhere to those.
Okay. Serge, as president, is this your first year as president of CISPA?
Yeah. It's first month.
First month.
Yeah,
okay,
we
welcome.
An election a month ago. So
okay, well, congratulations.
Thank you.
So, in that role, I guess CISPA's come quite a long way from the 70s. What's the kind of makeup of it now, and how does it look from the structured side, but also your members and really who you represent?
Right. Well, for a number of years, CISPA was represented by volunteers. Right? It was members of the accounting profession here locally, who sat on council, who sat on committees, and really, worked through the establishment and development of what CISPA is all about today. And in 2013, we brought on board Sherry as our CEO, and we've developed our office. We now have 3 full-time staff,
okay, wow.
And are really helping us develop what CISPA was looking to do in the local community as well as internationally, and in becoming an actual regulator of the profession, being able to provide significant amount of benefits to our members, and just being the cornerstone and backing of the Cayman financial services industry here in Cayman. So it's been it's been a great experience for me to be involved, and to be sitting on various committees, helping grow our profession here locally.
Certainly. And do you need to be? I guess the accounting firms are members, or are the individual accountants members, or how does that work, or how does someone get involved with CISPA if they want to?
Right. Yeah. So currently it's the individual. So the accounts of the Cayman Islands can become members of CISPA. In order to do so, you need to be a certified accountant with another overseas body to effectively become part of CISPA. We do rely on and we work with a lot of different international bodies, such as the ICPA in the U.S., CAPA Canada, the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants, as well as ICAW and a few others globally. But our members are very, very diverse, as is the Cayman Islands as a whole. Mm-hmm. Our membership's been growing quite steadily.
Our membership it's actually, we are the oldest and the largest, and I'm going to use the word, but we're not an association, but we are the largest and the oldest association on the island. We now have about 1,100 members.
Okay, wow.
And as Serge mentioned, they come from all over the world. We have, but in order to be a member, you do have to be a regular member, I should say. Just clarify that, because we do have another category, which is for associate members. Unfortunately, because we do not have the new law in place, we can't offer associate memberships, because the old law only allowed for associate members to have been a regular member of CISPA and have moved away from Cayman who might want to continue it. But we want to open up associate memberships for Caymanians and others that have come to Cayman who generally have an interest in the profession but also have an interest in financial services. We'd like to, welcome everyone in. But we do, and what is really great about this is the diversity of the membership. So our largest membership comes from AICPA. Which is in the U.S. So about 20% of our members come from there.
Okay.
And then CPA Canada is big. We also have a big representation from ICAW in the UK and from SAICA in South Africa, believe it or not.
Right.
And ACCA. Now, a lot of in the Caribbean region, they qualified with ACCA, which is why that category is so large. ACCA was very, very proactive many years ago in coming into the region. We're now finding today that a lot of the other international bodies are looking to expand their regional bases. Hence, CPA Canada has recently set up a charter in Cayman. SAICA, which is the South African Institute, is just in the process of setting up their charter. ICAS, which is the Institute in Scotland, they have a charter and we've got a good representation from Scotland.
Okay.
And so it's really just even around our membership, we truly are global, just even across the members, but they bring so many ideas and different processes from all of their different, what we call OPAs, which is the Overseas Professional Accounting Institutes. And, they come in, and our volunteers, they're absolutely, I'm not an accountant. I didn't, know really anything about the accounting world except getting scared when the auditors were coming to have a look at our books in my former life. But I just find that the profession and the people that are involved in the profession, I guess because of the diversity and because they bring so many different ideas.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, our members are extremely passionate about education. We do offer now over 120 hours of what we call CPD, the Continuing Professional Development hours. Up to about 3 years ago, we were only doing about 10. So we've upped that to ensure that our members can actually build their CPD on island.
Rather than traveling to Miami.
Rather than traveling
okay.
or other ways. We want to make it accessible. And, we do have minimum requirements under the International Education Standards. Mm-hmm. It is 40 hours per year. So we want to make sure that we provide that. And we're also currently working with other OPAs at the moment to bring their training programs as well, to make those available. So with AICPA, we signed an MOU to make their online courses available from Cayman, as well as, and we'll work with CPA Canada and SAICA and other institutes to make that available as well.
Fantastic. We're going to take a quick break, but stay with us and we'll talk more about the accounting industry and how young Caymanians can get involved.
This is
Money Sense, bringing an informed financial perspective to the Cayman community. Brought to you by the CFA Society Cayman Islands and sponsored by One Trade X.
And now, more Money Sense.
Welcome back to Money Sense. I'm your host, Neville Hicks, alongside Christophe Barnett. We're here today with Sherry Ebanks, Serge Berube, and again, Jude Scott, talking about the accounting industry. We've touched on a little bit about what CISPA is about, which has been great, but I guess I want to take a step back for the audience and really, I guess, put in perspective what is the accounting industry and why is it so vibrant here? Why is it so large? Why is CISPA so big? So I guess, Serge, I'll toss it over to you for that one.
Sure. Well, I think when you look at the the Cayman Islands and the strength that we have in our financial services sector, a lot of that is due to the professionals that are here working in the community, and that expands, from the lawyers to the accountants to the various different functions that are out there. The growth that we've seen within the financial services has been very much tied to those professionals, mm-hmm. and the quality of knowledge, the quality of services being provided here. And so, over the years, as especially on the hedge fund side, as things have really grown, the world was looking for a jurisdiction that was, credible, that they could rely upon, that offered all the various elements that you need to have, these vehicles operate in an effective manner, and to have a global trust in the system that's there, because there's a significant amount of monies invested through these products, and by virtue of that, some of the firms that are established here have significant global presence. If you look at the big four accounting firms that are present, the footprint that they have globally, there's probably somewhere in the vicinity of 800 to 900,000 employees between those four firms.
Right.
I mean, that's significant, right? And the fact that those firms see Cayman as being a critical, important jurisdiction in the financial services sector is very important. So there's been a significant amount of investment in our people here in Cayman, and the business community has really gravitated towards Cayman as a jurisdiction. So by virtue of that, it's just bringing talent, creating talent, developing talent locally really has helped grow this industry into what it is today as quite a big powerhouse.
Certainly. And what I guess from an audit, audit would be your major service.
Sure. Yeah.
From an accounting perspective.
Right. Audit is the largest sector, I guess, of the public accounting profession. There's a number of other services being provided from tax compliance, primarily U.S. tax compliance, because a lot of managers are based out of the U.S. and a lot of investors are coming from the U.S. But also, insolvency practitioners, consultancy, advisory. There's quite a bit of work being done on those segments as well. But yes, audit in of itself is paramount to the sustainability of the profession here in Cayman. We always kind of look at ourselves as being the watchdogs for SEMA, right? With the regulatory oversight that SEMA has in Cayman. They are reliant upon the auditors to ensure that the funds are complying with the local laws, international laws, and obviously the funds reporting framework for accountability as well.
Right. And I guess so. In the instance of a hedge fund or other fund, they're required under SEMA to have an audit. Is that a requirement?
The regulated funds, regulated entities.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So from a regulatory standpoint, effectively the way it's set up is funds that have more than 15 investors in them.
Okay.
Where there's a significant number of investors who are, in a product. The regulatory regime here is that those have to be regulated under the mutual funds law, and SEMA is the body who oversees that regulation. And when you look at the hedge fund space, the vast majority of those hedge funds have more than 15 investors, and by virtue are regulated here locally.
Certainly. So I guess it's been built up, the industry, and Jude, we've talked about this kind of throughout the last 4 shows in the various other financial services, but how does Cayman stay competitive in the sense that we've built a great model? How do we continue to, I guess, be competitive in this environment where it's easy, human capital is mobile, certain laws can be created or amended to impact the industry. So how does Cayman stay ahead of the curve and continue to kind of thrive forward?
Neville, it's a great question, and I think we really have the benefit of looking at the model that, for example, the accounting profession has taken, where it's really looked at building fundamentals and building it for the long term. So if we look back to many years ago, prior to the mutual funds law being in place, big drivers behind the mutual funds law were really accounting professionals who pressed for it and really saw this hedge fund business, which traditionally was not very well regulated anywhere in the world,
right,
and recognized that to attract strong institutional investors, it needed to have that strong credibility behind it. And really against much opposition, the accountants battled and the mutual funds law was put in place. And really the goals behind that was, 1, to make sure there was soundness. 2, it's always been the view, and certainly as long as I've been a part of the accounting profession, to anchor business in Cayman, but also anchor jobs in Cayman.
Very good point. Yeah.
So that's really been kind of fundamental to it. I think also what we've seen through the profession as well, and I've had the pleasure many years ago to actually be president of CISPA as well, is a real focus on determining what are the beneficial things to do for the jurisdiction. So, for example, for 30-odd years, as I mentioned earlier, the accounting profession has had training programs in place for young, talented Caymanians, development programs, pathways all the way up to the most senior levels in the firms. For example, when the hedge fund business was starting to develop, really investing in developing and understanding the complex products that were used in the industries, invested in sending people overseas, invested in expanding and sharing that training knowledge with administrators and others. So really being a vibrant part of the development and continuing to invest and reinvest. And the model that I really like about the accounting profession is rather than waiting for things to go into laws or regulations and then they practice it, they actually practice these things because they're good practices.
Certainly.
And then the laws, when they come into place, really just represent what's already been in practice for a long period of time. And I think that's the philosophy when we look at the jurisdiction, is to continue modeling that. When we identify what are the real strong characteristics, let's get them in place.
Yeah.
Let's make sure we follow them. And in the future, at some point in time, if they need to be memorialized in laws or guidelines or something, that's fine. But let's not let that hold us back from doing the things that are truly going to anchor the business and be foundations going forward.
Absolutely. Great points there, Jude. Sherry, just touching on Jude's point about getting young Caymanians involved within the accountancy designation and career path, much like Jude took. What are some of, does CISPA have any initiatives that are going on right now, or what are some that, kids can get involved or be on at least aware of kind of what's going on within the community?
Thanks for that. And I think being a part of CISPA, I'm very, very proud of what the profession has done to date, especially for young Caymanians, because they have, as Jude has mentioned, I mean, if we take a look at examples like Jude, we've got Cindy and Sheena Hislop. They're sisters, one competing firms, but they're both partners. A number of young stars really that came up through the profession, and many of them now in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. We've got Noel Bodden, who came up through the profession as well, and they were also passionate. But their firms, more importantly, this was a culture within the firms, was to develop talent in any jurisdiction that they came in. So, I'm really, really proud of what the profession has done in that regard. So what CISPA's done is we take a look all the way back from even elementary school.
Okay,
and
wow.
we have our volunteers that go into the elementary school, and we've worked very closely with the Minister of Education in the numeracy program, in building literacy and numeracy. So that's at the elementary level. We now have a careers and mentoring committee that actually we send our volunteers into the high schools to talk about the profession. And we do have, and on our website, there's videos that people can actually watch. We have a series that we're continuing to roll out called I Am an Accountant, and it's examples of young Caymanians who have become qualified and taken different paths, because you don't necessarily have to go into audit. Audit's tough. And the hours in audit are really, really tough. And you don't have to stay in audit, but it's a great foundation for going out. There's a lot of Caymanians who have become entrepreneurs. They've opened their own businesses. A lot of Caymanians who've taken a different route on perhaps maybe saying, I like investment management. I'm going to get my, I've got my CPA, but I want to do my CFA, for example. So there's lots of different pathways and lots of different careers that young Caymanians can do. So we go into the high schools, we talk about I Am an Accountant and why I went into accounting, and why it is why it's a global career as well, because if they decide for any time. The other thing is that the firms do, I find is great, is they can send them into their offices in New York. They can send them into their offices in London. They can go into Toronto or wherever, to any other major financial center, and get experience over there. And many of the firms do that. They do an internship abroad. So, and we could, and if there's any young people out there, accountancy, there will always be availability for accountants to work in the Cayman Islands. There is, no matter how many, even if we took all the school leavers every year and trained them to become accountants, there will always be a job. It's and locally as well. Our target, and it's very thing, but over the next 5 to 10 years is to be able to attract at least 10% of the school graduates to come out. And even if we were able to do that, we would still need people from abroad to come in to help us. So it is a growing industry. And I believe in the U.S. labor, I believe it's something that the growth in the accountancy industry and the demand is up about 20% going forward now. So it's, there is demand. ICCI and UCCI, because the path to becoming an accountant is, it's long. Traditionally in Cayman, people have gone and done their bachelor's and their master's degrees. Those can be done right here in Cayman by attending either ICCI or UCCI. And many Caymanians, like Jude, have been to a U.S. state board, so they become qualified with a U.S. state board. Many of them went either Florida, a lot went to Georgia, a lot went to New York. But they could work here, they could intern here after they got their master's degrees. And CISPA was integral really pushed with UCCI to bring the Becker Review Program. The Becker Review Program is sort of an overall review to get them prepared to take their CPA exams or US CPA exams.
To kind of give them the best
board.
Opportunity to pass that very difficult exam.
Yeah. So, so the path to accountancy, you can do it here. You could do your master's here. The firms are extremely supportive. They offer, over the year, they've spent over $1 million in internships for young Caymanians here. And they do, there's 1.4 million that they've actually put into scholarships, et cetera, to send these and take them in. And like Jude did, they come back over summer, their holidays, and many of the Christmas and summer and whatever, and do work. So it's we are looking, and one of CISPA's objectives, longer term objectives, is to make sure that we can actually bring a CPA exam or a CA exam right here, so they don't actually have to sign it with a state board. They can actually do it through here or through CPA Canada. And of course, ACCA is available locally now. That is a self-study. You have to be extremely disciplined because there's not a lot of support.
Right.
But yeah, it's a profession that there's a lot of demand for. And it's a great thing. I mean, they can, even if they only spend 1 year in an audit firm, and they go out. We are seeing a lot more Caymanians who have actually started up their own accounting, not audit, but accounting little firms.
Sure.
And they're doing a lot of bookkeeping. They're doing very well because there's a huge demand in Cayman for people to come out and do their bookkeeping for them. The little businesses and it's small business enterprise. So the door is wide open.
I like how you put it as kind of a global passport and kind of backbone. So whether it's, taking an opportunity and getting exposure within the US or UK, I think that's extremely important. And the firms here seem very supportive, and CISPA seems very supportive as well. So we want to thank you guys for coming on the show. We're out of time, hard to believe. But yeah, thank you for a very enlightening message about CISPA. Jude, thank you again for joining us.
You're welcome.
And to all the listeners out there, thanks for listening in, and we look forward to you joining us again in 2 weeks' time. And that's all from Money Sense. Have a great morning.
Money Sense is brought to you with the support of OneTradeX. OneTradeX, the Cayman Islands' #1 choice for online brokerage.